Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are putting a seemingly simple blue box under the microscope.
A very interesting one.
Yeah, the BASS MO2 multi-overtone. It came out in 2013, and it's developed this really serious cult following since then.
For good reason. People call it one of the most unusual, maybe most musically sophisticated pedals BISS has ever made.
It is, because it's not a chorus, it's not an octave pedal, it's something totally different, a harmonic generator.
Right.
So our mission today is to, cut through all the jargon, figure out the tech, and understand why this thing sounds so incredibly natural.
And we absolutely have to start with the core concept.
The engine itself.
Exactly. It's called multidimensional processing, or MDP for short. The MO2 is a fully digital pedal, and it's powered entirely by this technology. If you don't get MDP, you won't get the MO2.
Okay, so MDP is the engine, but first let's talk about what it's not doing. When most guitarists hear harmonic effect, they think of like fixed intervals, right? An octave down, a fifth up.
That is the crucial distinction.
Yeah.
A traditional BISS pedal, like an OC series octaver or a PS pitch shifter, it just calculates a pitch and moves it by a set amount.
A static interval.
The static interval.
Right.
The MO2 does not do that.
Yeah.
At all. Instead, it generates these frequency-related overtones that are, well, they're dynamic. They move and shift based on how you play.
Not just what you play.
Exactly.
That sounds like a really sophisticated level of analysis. So let's unpack that MDP engine. What is it actually listening for? It must be processing way more data than a standard digital effect.
It is, yeah. It's analyzing a huge amount of data in real time, and it goes way beyond just the fundamental note.
Okay.
So the MDP engine is monitoring your playing strength, the pitch, the timbre, the actual tone color of your guitar,
right,
the frequency content across the whole spectrum, and this is the critical part, the envelope shape.
So how a note swells and decays.
Precisely.
So wait, if I pluck a string really hard, the effect will react differently than if I gently pick the exact same note.
That's it. That is the dynamic element. Yeah. And that responsiveness is all down to the internal architecture of MDP. It's not just adding a layer, it's doing this sort of surgical adaptive processing.
Okay, so let's get into those key capabilities. I see terms in the source material like multi-band processing and envelope tracking. What do those actually mean for my guitar signal?
Well, multi-band processing means the pedal doesn't just treat your whole signal as one big block of sound. It splits it. It divides your signal into different frequency bands. So your low E string gets processed differently from your high B string, for instance.
Which keeps the low notes from getting muddy when you're generating harmonics on top, and vice versa.
Exactly. It keeps everything clear right across the neck.
And what about that real-time envelope tracking? How does that stop the effect from sounding, robotic?
That means the generated overtone doesn't just switch on at full volume. It perfectly mirrors the natural volume curve of the note you actually played.
So if my note swells, the harmonic swells with it.
If it swells gently, the harmonic swells gently. If it decays fast, the harmonic decays just as fast. That synchronization is why it feels so connected to your playing.
Okay, that leads to the most jargon-heavy term I saw. Phase coherent overtone summing.
Yeah, that one.
It sounds like I need a physics degree. For a player, why does phase coherence even matter?
It matters a lot, actually, because if you just layer two sounds together, your dry guitar and a synthesized harmonic, and they are in phase, you get all these weird, unpleasant cancellations.
Like a weird flanging sound.
Yeah, or they just sound separate and tacked on. Phase coherent summing means the MO2 aligns the phase of the synthesized overtones perfectly with your dry signal constantly.
So the sonic result is that the new harmonics don't sound like some digital layer sitting on top of the guitar.
They integrate. They become part of the sound. The result is just total smoothness. It tracks perfectly without any of that glitching or the weird artifacts you hear in older pitch effects. It's mimicking how harmonics bloom on a real acoustic instrument.
That's a fantastic insight. It's a digital processor using all this complex analysis just to achieve an organic acoustic feel.
Right.
Okay, we get the theory. Let's move to the sound palette. What kinds of sounds are we actually making here?
Well, we're moving way beyond typical guitar sounds. This is territory usually reserved for synthesizers.
I've heard it described as vocal-like.
It can be. It creates these lush vocal-like overtone clusters, but it can also do warm harmonic reinforcement or even full-on organ and keyboard voicings.
And for ambient players.
Oh, for atmosphere, it's just unparalleled for creating these massive ambient pad layers.
And a huge part of that comes from the 3 engines on the mode switch. This is where you really pick the flavor of synthesis you want.
And they are really different. These are not just EQ changes. They're completely different harmonic synthesis algorithms.
Okay, let's break them down. Mode 1.
Mode 1 is the most subtle, the most organic. It's all about adding clarity and shimmer. It generates this complex, almost acoustic-like harmonic density.
So if you just want your guitar to sound a bit fuller, richer, more expensive, really.
Exactly. Without sounding processed. You put it on mode 1 with a low blend, and it's just depth. It's not an effect.
But then when you want to step out and make it more obvious, you jump to mode 2.
Mode 2 brings in a fuller, slightly more synthetic character, but it's still very musical.
Yeah.
This engine is amazing for creating these sweet, almost B3 organ-like textures.
And since MDP tracks chords so well,
It's perfect for sustained chords, creating those beautiful, thick, ambient pads that just fill out all the space.
and mode 3, I'm guessing, is the big cinematic experience.
Mode 3 is the most dramatic, yeah. It uses the most complex, shifting harmonic spectrum. You get these thick, rich, synth-like ambient textures.
So that's the soundscape mode.
That's where your guitar stops sounding like a guitar and becomes more like a digital synth or a string machine.
And all this complexity is made even richer by the stereo output.
Oh yeah, the stereo output is, I would say, essential to unlocking this pedal's real potential.
How so?
The MTP engine is actually programmed to send the synthesized overtones to the left and right channels differently. So you get this incredible spatial spread, these evolving stereo fields.
It makes everything sound huge.
It takes those big textures from mode 2 and 3 and just makes them feel absolutely massive.
Okay, now let's talk about actually using it. The user interface. We've established the learning curve is steep because the effect is so sensitive.
It is.
The 3 main controls, balance, tone, and detune, they don't really behave like your typical pedal controls, do they?
No, you have to blend them really thoughtfully. Balance is your dry-wet mix. Pretty straightforward.
Low settings for subtle color.
Right. Your clean signal is still the main thing. But when you push it high, you're pretty much replacing your guitar tone with the full synth texture from the MO2.
And then you shape that texture with the tone knob.
Exactly. Tone controls the spectral character of the overtones themselves. Turn it left, and you filter the harmonics. They get darker, warmer, like a deep pad.
And turning it to the right.
That emphasizes the high frequencies. You get those brighter, shimmering, almost bell-like harmonics.
And finally, detune. This one seems like the secret sauce for movement, but it also feels counterintuitive since MDP is trying to be so precise.
It's the animation control. It's crucial. Detune introduces this tiny micro-pitch spread between the different overtone layers.
So at low settings, it's stable.
Pure and stable. You maintain that phase-coherent clarity. But when you crank the detune, you intentionally introduce these slight chorus-like variations in pitch and timing.
So high detune is basically adding a beautifully modulated chorus on top of an already complex sound.
That's a perfect way to describe it. It creates that signature swirl and animated width that people love. But you have to be careful. That's also where you can run into mix issues.
Right. Let's pivot to that real-world application. Given this unique feature set, what are the most successful use cases? Where do players really rely on this thing?
I'd say 4 main categories have emerged. The first is definitely ambient and cinematic scoring.
Makes sense.
Paired with a good delay and a big reverb, the MO2 is just unbeatable for creating these sustained pad-like washes and swelling harmonic clouds. Turns your guitar into a synth machine instantly.
And we mentioned its popularity in worship and indie music. That seems huge.
It is. They use it for those massive ethereal shimmer textures and organ-like sustains that sit perfectly under clean tones. It gives you that sense of enormous sparkle without using a traditional octaver that might glitch or sound thin.
What about for the player who just wants a better core tone?
That's the always-on sweeten case. You set it to mode 1, keep the balance super low, and it acts like a high-end studio enhancer. It just subtly deepens the harmonic content.
Makes your core tone sound richer.
More polished, yeah.
And for lead guitar, can it handle the speed?
Yes. Because of the MDP tracking, it's excellent for lead enhancement. It doesn't sound artificial, and it thickens up solos beautifully without getting muddy, even with overdrive.
That makes it incredibly versatile. So, to sum up the pros, you've got insanely lush harmonics, flawless tracking, beautiful stereo spread, and no robotic artifacts. It's a totally unique creative tool.
It is, but we have to be impartial. There are considerations.
The learning curve?
The learning curve is real. Because it isn't a familiar effect, players who expect a simple chorus or octave pedal get frustrated. It takes time to learn how balance, tone, and detune interact.
And the practical mix issues you mentioned.
Right. If you push that detune knob too high, the constant movement can just overwhelm a dense mix. Your guitar starts to sound too busy.
And it demands good playing.
It does, because it reacts to your dynamics. It works best with intentional, expressive playing. If you're a sloppy player, well, the effect is going to amplify that unevenness.
And of course, the harsh reality of any cult favorite pedal.
It's discontinued.
Yeah.
And because it's so innovative and unique, it commands a pretty high price on the used market, which is a shame.
Let's place it historically. The MO2 didn't just appear out of nowhere in 2013. It was part of a big push by BASS with this new MDP technology.
That's right. It was part of a trio of pedals with the TE2 Terra Echo and the DA2 Adaptive Distortion that marked this new era for BASS.
They weren't just updating old circuits.
No, they were creating genuinely new sounds.
Yeah.
That trio was all about exploring how smart, multidimensional analysis could create effects that adapted to the musician. It fundamentally changed the relationship between the player and the pedal.
Which is why it still has that cult status, especially with ambient players and sound designers.
Exactly. It's a pedal that really demands and rewards an expressive approach. It pushed the boundary of what a standard guitar signal could do.
So what does this all mean for you listening? The MO2 multi-overtone, built on that smart MDP tech, really stands out as one of the most imaginative and musically beautiful pedals BASS ever made. It's a path to new sonic territory that traditional effects just can't get you to.
And if we connect all this back to the bigger picture, it raises an interesting question. Because the pedal relies so heavily on MDP to analyze your playing strength, your attack, your envelope, the effect itself kind of forces you into a more nuanced, deliberate style of playing.
So the tool teaches the user.
In a way, yeah. The sound sculptor learns to play better because the pedal rewards that acoustic sensitivity. And that feedback loop might just be the hidden genius of the MO2.